You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Snob OS show. And again, as always, we want to thank you for your continued support of listening and or watching our show. And you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So definitely take the time out after you listen to click that little rate and review button, and also click that subscribe button as well. Also, we have exclusive content and live taping for our Patreon supporters. And if you would like to become a part of that Snobbish family, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast to sign up and get all of those details. And with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. So normally we cover a couple different stories in the lowdown this week. Based on what's been going on in the tech ecosystem, I have only technically 2 stories for the lowdown. But once we get over the second string, I'm going to kind of tie it back around and talk a little bit more Apple news at the end of second string, where we talk all other tech. It all ties in together this week, which is sometimes kind of rare. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off first with the hot topic of Fortnite. We all know Fortnite sued Apple way back in 2020. So it's been 5 years. We finally have some sort of a resolution, even though Apple is fighting it. So this all goes around the in-store app purchases. We've talked about this endlessly. And because of all this initially with the back and forth between Fortnite with Epic Games, who created Fortnite, and Apple, they yanked Fortnite from the App Store. And that was like, Apple was really throwing hands then in legal speak. But now, after Epic did win parts of their case, the courts decided, Apple, you have to allow companies to have these external links for your in-app purchases. Apple didn't like it. They tried to stall it, but eventually they had to acquiesce, even though, like I said, they are currently fighting it. And one of the things that they were doing in this fight is, one, they wanted to maintain their current practices of not having the external links, and the court was like, nah, you got to go ahead and do that. So they did. But the other thing that they were kind of holding out on was putting the Fortnite mobile app back into the App Store. And then Epic was like, yo, we won, so why won't you put it back in there? And then the courts was almost about to strike again, and they were like, hey, you got to put it back in there. And so Fortnite resubmitted. Normally, Apple says it takes about 24 hours to approve an app to get in the App Store with an app that's as popular as Fortnite, with a company as big as Epic Games. People are like, oh, that's going to be quick, super quick. Apple's like, nah, we're going to be petty. We're going to drag our feet. It took them over 48 hours to approve for Fortnite to be back in the App Store on iPhone. And so it's currently back. And depending on what happens with this court case and this appeal, it may come back out. But for now, external links for in-app purchases for all apps is on the table and active. And Fortnite is now back in the mobile app store. So I'm pretty sure Epic Games probably feels real good about themselves right about now.
Yep. Apple fought the good fight. Well, no, they fought their fight. I won't say the good fight. They fought their fight of maintaining that Apple knows best when it comes to in-app purchases, keeping your data secure and secret, and making sure that you get the Apple experience that they promote. According to Apple, allowing third party apps, allowing third party links was going to mess up the Apple experience for its end users. They tried to scare tactics, they tried to scare end users. Like Nica mentioned, they try to stall, install, and deny. Their last ditch effort is to appeal, but I don't think Apple's going to win this appeal. So I believe going forward, this is going to be the sign of the times for Apple as it relates to the App Store, as it relates to third party developers. Third party developers are going to be able to, they're going to be able to offer, like, for instance, with Epic, with Fortnite. Now, their digital currency is called V-Bucks. And according to this article, once you decide to do an in-app purchase of V-Bucks, you get an option of an in-app purchase. You click the in-app purchase. That'll take you through Apple's process to where Apple becomes the merchant that actually takes the charge and then sends that over to Epic, and then they give you your V-Bucks. Or you can choose the Epic store, and in this screenshot in this article, it says earn 20% back in Epic rewards if, of course, you click the Epic store. You click the Epic store, opens up a browser, takes you to a browser. Of course, you got to log into your Epic account online, do that, buy the V-Bucks, and then they'll add that to your account. So I can see Epic offering rewards. I don't want to say I can't see. They are offering incentives for people to use the Epic store processing versus Apple's, because, of course, they don't have to share that with Apple. Now, again, the silver lining for Apple, now that Epic is in Fortnite is in the App Store, now you got all these people downloading Epic, the Fortnite app, rather, which now has pushed Fortnite to the top free game on the US market. So again, like I mentioned, silver lining with Apple, now you got all these people downloading Fortnite, which means more people are going to be on your mobile devices for longer periods of times, because you don't play Fortnite while you're standing in line at the grocery store or while you're on the toilet. You sit there and you play Fortnite for hours. You have to pay attention. and you got to pay for, you got to play for hours. So that means more people using Apple devices, more people staying in on the, just staying on their Apple devices. So Apple's got to look at that as a silver lining. The negative is Fortnite ain't going to be the first. They're going to be more and more and more and more and more developers, more third-party apps going this route. So time will tell if the silver lining of more people using the iPhones will compare to the loss of income that goes along with allowing third-party developers, allowing us end users to purchase in-app purchases, subscriptions outside of the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm glad you pointed out that more people on their devices, meaning their iPhones, because this only is for the US App Store, and it's only for iPhone. It's not for your other Apple devices. So it's kind of a narrow scope, but people are into it and they are back on it. So it's interesting to see how long Epic Games is going to kind of keep this 20% deal, because I don't see them keeping that forever. I think this is probably just an introductory reminder to say, hey, click our link instead. And even, we'll put the link in the show notes. If you look at the link, choose how to pay, and Epic has got their logo and it's got all these things. And then the other side is just an all undercase in-app purchase. Looks very bland, very plain, not very appealing to say, hey, I want to click on this, or this looks kind of weird. Is this shady or not? So,
but The potential problem I could see Epic having is all these kids getting V-Bucks and running up their parents' credit cards, and they parents not knowing where all these charges are coming from. And Apple's going to say, them over there, you go to customer service at epicgames.com and
Don't
do
come to
your
our customer
dispute
service.
and do your
Right.
disputes. Apple is a bigger company than Epic. They have been in the game for a long time on how to handle disputes, on how to handle chargebacks. I'm pretty sure Epic is good at it, but this influx of young kids buying up all these in-app purchases because all they got to do is go to a browser and enter their parents' password and then run up the card, right? Versus doing an in-app purchase. I can see the
The
subscriptions
tracking. Yeah.
and I automatically get the email anytime any of my kids download, purchase anything from Apple. I get it in an email and I see the subscriptions when I go into the settings. You cannot do that if you do the external link. So it'll be interesting to see if, people going to the external link will cause problems with purchases and chargebacks with Epic.
Right. I think we're gonna, see a lot of new things coming out of this. It's gonna be interesting to see over the course of time how this plays out, especially when you have, security issues and, like you said, chargebacks and those types of things. And people, Apple's link being more, I think, secure than some of these external links. And then that leads you up to data being leaked and issues of that sort. And that leads us directly to the next story, that there has been another data breach, a huge one, by the way, but this time it includes Apple IDs. So a 47 gigabit unprotected database that was not owned by Apple, owned by someone else, containing over 184 million usernames and passwords from at least 29 countries, was recently discovered that it was publicly accessible online. And this, it wasn't just Apple IDs that are in this. Facebook, Google, Microsoft had their usernames and passwords, not sure for how long, publicly accessible online. So as I mentioned, this is on a database not managed by Apple. So it wasn't, Apple directly, but again, if it's your Apple IDs and because we all know Apple IDs, especially in the Apple ecosystem, that's gold. That's like your Social Security number. And so this is one of those things where it puts people at risk to have their whole online identity, especially in the Apple ecosystem, publicly accessible. I'm not sure. I have to double check the article, but I'm not sure when this actually happened. So I'm not sure which password, if you've changed it recently, they would have. But as with anything, with your username potentially being accessible, change your passwords, turn on two-factor, don't use the same password, across the board, all the things we've said before.
But that's the problem, though, because this is a data breach, and your Apple ID could have been exposed based on this database, which is strange. I don't understand how this database wasn't managed by Apple, but it had all of this information and it was publicly available, like you mentioned. I'm not sure how this database just gets all this information. I'm not sure if it's connected to a contractor or a vendor or a third-party service that works with Apple.
It has to, because it's other people as well, right?
Right. I don't know. But all that to say, the problem with this is what most people do. The password for your Apple ID is also the password for your Gmail inbox, is also
Mm-hmm.
the password for your Bank of America or Chase or whatever, which is
Mm-hmm.
also the password for you to log into the IRS to get your taxes, right? You can see
Right.
how this could cause a problem, right?
Yep.
So, like Nica said, the number one thing you have to do is change your Apple ID password, and don't change it to something else you use all the time. Change it to something that is unique and
Mm-hmm.
specific to Apple. The second thing you want to do is use a password manager app. I don't care which
Yep.
one you use. We use Apple passwords because we're Apple snobs. I don't care
Yep.
which one you use. Or go online and get and search the web for a random password generator. Let
Yeah.
that generate some random ass password. Copy and paste that into your Apple ID to change it to, and then put that in the passwords manager. Because what people do is they'll come up with, oh, my birthday is March 25th, 1977. So I'm gonna put 772503. That don't do that.
Don't do
don't do that. But people are not going to listen. They're going to do it anyway.
that.
So
Yeah.
again, I can't say I told you so, but these breaches and these data leaks are coming far. They're few and far between now, to where they're coming every week, every month. So it's like eventually you're just going to have to suck it up and come up with some complex passwords, use unique passwords for each
Yeah.
individual service.
Yeah.
I get it. You probably got 2, 3, 500 things that you log into regularly.
Yeah.
I don't care. Make a separate password for each and every one of them. And the way
Yeah.
you do that is via a password manager that, like Nica said, has two-factor authentication. Everything's locked down. It's like, we can't keep telling you about these leaks for you not to do something. Why do you gotta wait?
You can't feign ignorance anymore. It's widely known. And I mean the bare minimum, because some of you still aren't going to listen. If you aren't going to change your passwords, at least turn on two-factor authentication.
Right.
At least if someone does have your password, they still have to authenticate it either between an authenticator app or by sending you a text message
Right.
or some
Right.
sort of push notification.
Right.
If you are going to listen to us and change your passwords, because I realize that is a heavy activity
It's a task.
to do. It's definitely a task, but do you want to be on one of those LifeLock commercials talking about your identity got stolen because
Or
somebody got your information? Because once it's out there, it's out there. There's nothing you can do to protect against it other than to change the password, because they have your information at that point.
Yep.
So please take that into consideration, because it's all fine and good until it's not fine and good, and
And
you
then you
find yourself in a
crying, and then you on
situation.
social
Yeah.
media, because people first thing they do is start recording. You on social media crying because they
Crying.
just somehow got into your account, locked you out of your own account,
Yeah.
and is buying up V-Bucks on Fortnite.
Running it up. So yeah, please keep that in mind. And I know it seems like a lot of times it's a broken record, but anytime like things like this come across, I make sure, that we talk about it, because it's one of those things, if you keep something on someone's mind, then hopefully eventually one day you won't be as resistant, and you'll go ahead and take the leap to make those changes. Because again, data is currency now. Data might as well be gold, because we live in a digital society, and everything
And all they
is
got to do,
ones
and
and
all they got to do is
zeros.
piece it together. All they got to do is get your Apple ID at one time, get your address from someplace else, get your birth date from someplace else, get your social security from someplace else, get your email password, put it all together. They just stole your
They got
identity.
a profile of you. That simple. So yeah, please keep that in mind. Please, please, please. Can't stress it enough how important that is. So that is going to temporarily wrap it up for the lowdown, and we're going to head on over into second string to talk about all other tech. So again, we're Apple snobs. We talk about Apple We normally cover all the Apple events. We cover WWDC. We don't normally cover non-developer conferences that are outside of the things that we like. But I did want to have a little conversation about Google I/O, which is basically Google's WWDC. They held it this week. I believe it was Monday and Tuesday. And I want to cover it because I saw quite a few people who are in the Apple ecosystem, who love Apple, who are down with whatever Apple is dropping. I saw them saying, hey, this is great. This is what we thought AI would be. And Google is making a bit of a splash with this and talking about all of their new applications and features in the AI space. So I saw this thread by someone named Wes Roth, kind of how Terrance and I will, kind of live tweet the event. He basically did that with Google I/O. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things that really had people talking and saying, okay, this is what I thought AI would be, or this is what I expected and was looking forward to AI to do. So here are a few things. Gemini has an agent mode, which basically we'll put the link in the show notes. They have like a video of how it's less than a minute of how this agent mode works. And it's really giving like you have your very own personal assistant. We've talked about how chatbots kind of help and, make things easier. But this agent mode really kind of packages it more to be something customized to you to make your life a lot simpler. Next thing, it's called VO3, that's one, and Flow, which is another. And basically this is bringing filmmaking to the novice, person. This isn't for, your creatives that are really out there making blockbusters or, short films, independent, for, your traditional filmmaker. This is going to allow me, you, anybody else who's like, ooh, I want to make a video. And it's not just allowing you to quote unquote make a video, but it's allowing you to kind of get the feel of what a filmmaker is and how they work. And it's done by prompting. Similar, if you think of your chat GPT, you go and you ask it to do something, your Claude, you ask it to do something. And so what this does is it allows you to create these videos, including synced audio and storyboard. So this is kind of like, from what I've seen from, back in the day when we used to have making the video, you got to kind of see the way that we get content, how videos are made, what it looks like behind the scenes. So this is storyboarding. So it allows you to storyboard. So basically mapping out each scene that goes into your video. It can generate these storyboards. And these two features allow you basically kind of like in a sandbox, if you're thinking like in engineering terms. I think they call it a playground, where you can go in and kind of craft these videos. And I've seen some examples and they actually surprisingly look pretty good. And you're able as an individual being able to go in and kind of make this high quality, because we've seen some kind of makeups of videos and it's like, you can definitely tell this is AI generated, but this is giving you a better feel and better looking content.
So are you creating the video using prompts, or are you editing the video you already shot using prompts?
You're creating it using prompts.
How does it do that? I'm generally curious as to how I can prompt a video to where I haven't recorded anything, I haven't captured anything, I haven't said anything. I'm generally curious how that will work.
It's kind of the same if you think of when you go to create an image on like say Copilot. You say, I want a picture of 3 children playing, basketball in a professional stadium,
right,
that type of thing. And this is creating
the video, and animated video. And I don't call it animated, but it's not.
It's animated. I've seen animated and with human looking people in it. It's
I'm
very, that's why
be
people
interested in
were,
seeing.
yeah, that's why people were really just like, oh my God, this is amazing, because to think that you can do that from prompts is like wild. The other thing is another feature that they announced is Jules, which is basically their version of Copilot, meaning this is more for your
What
software engineers and developers.
what is Gemini then? See, this is the problem with Google. They got too much going on. Again, I'm being biased, of course, because I'm an
Right.
Apple fan. So I take that with a grain of salt, right? But
Mm-hmm.
all these names,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, we got Gemini. You mentioned, what was the thing you just mentioned?
VO3 Flow and
And
now
Jewel.
Jules.
Right, right. And then there's something else. They
Yeah.
got it's just like again, shout out to them for doing that video thing, because that seems dope. If you
Yeah.
can do it, again, you gotta keep in mind that this is what artists and creators are warning about.
Yes.
Because if I can use prompts to quickly type up a video, which is crazy to say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you, as a graphic designer, as a video editor, as a photographer, a videographer, if I can quick for social media, because I've seen them on social media. I've seen these videos
Mm-hmm.
and they be promoting like events and stuff. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
are those real people? But they look real, but it looks animated, like an animated movie, but they're real. And it's like, well, how did they? But it ain't like Pixar, right? Pixar didn't do
Yeah.
it because they're not promoting no party. So
Yeah.
somebody they got a hold of something, and they've
Yeah.
created this AI generated video to promote a party, and it's like, well, that's where it's going. So,
That's exactly where it's going. And that's really kind of at the heart of what creatives, whether it be actors, musicians,
mhm.
producers,
Editors.
composers, editors,
Mhm.
all of these, it's bringing things that they have gone to school for, that they've learned their craft, has basically been kind of reduced to opening up an app or a browser and typing in, make me a video of three kids doing boots on the ground at a county fair. And bloop, splits it out. And then you can go in and refine it, tweak it, make it better. So yeah. And again, we've talked about it before. There are some regulations around this, but not nearly enough to keep up with where this could go. And it could easily go in a very dark direction. And then when you have an administration where it's basically pay for play, a lot of these big companies, as we saw with the inauguration, as we've seen, lately, they play into
Cut the
this
front of the line.
guy's ego, because they know that if they, make him feel like he's something or important, he'll acquiesce and give them whatever they want. We've seen this with this whole Qatar plane thing. But back on this, one last thing that was also getting people's attention is called Project Astra. So basically, you can take your phone and face it to you and interact. You could take your phone and use it as a way to interact with something and get immediate feedback. So kind of think of,
It's not augmented reality.
no.
You said
So think
you're
of like
looking at something on the screen. You say facing
you're
you.
using your phone camera.
Oh, okay,
So
got it.
so think about it is, I think probably the simplest terms to think about this is, when you're, say, in a different country and you're getting translations, and now they have it where it's conversational, where you can say something into it, it speaks it to the other person in their language of what you're trying to do. They speak it back to you in their language, but you get it in English, or I'm just saying English because I'm using myself. So is that type of interaction where it's like back and forth, like real-time feedback through your phone with whatever you're interacting with.
Yeah.
So again, I have to say it is some interesting things. Again, the guardrails around this, I don't think we have too many,
No.
and I could easily see this going the wrong way. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it in second string, because of the fact that this is the train has not only left the station, but it's miles down the road, and it is moving fast. And the fact that a lot of people have been talking about it. The other thing I wanted to take a quick talk about is Jony Ive, of Apple lore, he's basically credited with designing the iPhone, designing the MacBook Pro. He left Apple a couple of years ago, which was very shocking to a lot of people because, again, he's probably just as famous as, or I won't say famous, well known in the world in general, but specifically as it relates to Apple, like your Steve Jobs, like your
Wozniak.
Yeah, like your Tim Cooks. He has that kind of pull and notoriety because of what he's done at Apple and his talents. Well, again, he left Apple a couple of years ago. Again, people were very shocked. They were trying to figure out what happened. What is he going to do? So what he ended up doing was creating his own startup called From Love. And he basically brought a bunch of other subject matter experts on the hardware side of things because he is a designer. He brought in some software people, product people, brought in all these really smart people to come, and everybody's like, well, what are you creating? What are you doing? And it's like, well, you know how all startups are, incubators. It's like, we're going to come up with ideas and create things and kind of see where it goes. But this is important because Sam Altman, who is the CEO and founder of OpenAI, they basically joined forces. So From Love, OpenAI have come together to create this new company called I.O. And people have been, if you're in the tech ecosystem on social media, people were wondering, what is Jony Ive filming? Because they saw him all around San Francisco. They were like, hey, what's he doing? Is it something from his company?
They was recording him getting paid because this Mark Gurman reports that OpenAI is buying Jony Ive's startup for $6.5 billion.
Yes. So and that's what I was getting to. Yes. So they created this 9-minute kind of flashy video, very artsy of, Sam Altman walking through OpenAI, and they're talking all flowery about him, and then he's walking through the building, going outside. Then you have Jony Ive. They're doing all of his accolades. He's walking through the city of San Francisco, and they meet in this boutique, very cute coffee house, and it's just like
sounds
bros
cheesy.
Coming. It's yeah. These two bros coming together, and it's like, you're so great. No, you're so great.
Oh my God.
I love your family. Your family's so great. You create things, and you create things. You're a genius. I mean,
is this what the kids call glazing? Is that what that is?
I think this probably is. I think that probably fits. And so it was a 9-minute video basically of that, introducing, their collaboration. They didn't talk about specifics. What they basically said, they're coming together and they are going to make a suite of AI products. They didn't give any type of context around what it is that they're building, but we know that Jony Ive is on the hardware side of things, the design side of things. We know Sam Altman is on the software side of things. So obviously they're coming together to create at least one product or a suite of hardware products. We don't know. And so that's basically what they said. It's like, we look forward to in the next year sharing what we're creating because we have the smartest people in the world,
Of
and
course.
they're doing the most innovative thing,
Sure
and
they are.
they're on AI's precipice, and we're looking down to the future, and that's what we're creating. So all of that to say, of course, this just the video I think launched yesterday, which is Wednesday, and people are already on the rumor mill, Ming Chi Kuo, your Mark Gurmans, all the people. And I wanted to bring this up because it was so intentionally vague, I believe. There have been one of the rumors that I think the most I've seen, because it has like a mock-up, is essentially their take on a screenless AI product. We've seen this before. I think even before this announcement, I think Jony Ive talked about the Humane Pen and Rabbit and how bad they were. So when I initially saw the video, my thought was they are trying to become direct competition for Apple, and maybe they're creating a phone or a computer or a tablet, because they said a suite of products. So that could be anything. So my initial thought was maybe they are trying to come for Apple's crown and get into this arena. But then you see these rumors about this. And in the video, he talks about, if I want to, ask it something, I have to pull up my laptop, I have to open it, I have to open a browser, I have to launch ChatGPT, type it in, and give me something. And that kind of has people thinking that it's a screenless small device. Again, like I said, similar to the Humane Pen, which came out of Apple as well. There were two Apple big people that left Apple and kind of broke out on their own. So all this to say, are you, there are a couple things. Like, what do you think this potential suite of products could include? And how this ties back into Apple is, we know that WWDC is in a couple of weeks. Do you think this puts any additional pressure on Apple? Because they already have the pressure of Apple Intelligence
And they need
not
more.
being what people wanted it to be or thought it was going to be. So it's kind of twofold. What do you think they meaning IO is going to produce? And two, bring it back to, like I said, we're going to kind of loop this in back to kind of like the third Apple story is, we have WWDC coming up. What, if anything, do you think we can expect out of Apple from WWDC? Do you think they're going to shore up Apple Intelligence? Kind of, how do you think these two things that are associated kind of play together, or do they not?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I hope Johnny and Sam come out with a phone, because there needs to be more options for users outside of just Apple and Google. I hope Microsoft comes back with the Windows Phone, because what's happening is, even with the Epic story, Apple has not necessarily got big for its britches, but it's had so much control over the smartphone market that it affects all these other things in its favor. As we're starting to see, not everything is starting to fall in Apple's favor, i.e., Apple Intelligence has kind of fell flat, as some of these other, right or wrong, right? Apple still, to me, is sticking by a story of, we want to do this right. We want to take our time. We just don't want to do what everybody else is doing, right?
Right.
It seems like Apple's still trying to stick to that. Well, that comes at a cost. And the cost being Gemini and all the other things that Google is doing, and all the things that OpenAI is doing. It's like, all right, Apple, you want to do, competition is good for the consumer. So I think stuff like this, stuff like Gemini, Google's IO and all their stuff is doing, love it or hate AI, whatever the case may be, that is causing problems for Apple. And the reason why it's causing problems is because Apple can't sit around, it doesn't appear, that Apple can sit around anymore and be like, oh, we're going to do it our way, our time, when we feel like it, when we want to. Now they got to, they're going to step their game up because Jony Ive is a big name. Sam Altman is a big name, and them coming together only means that, I mean, you can speculate that big things are going to happen. I don't know what those things are. Like you mentioned, I don't know if it's a phone. I don't know if it's a watch. It's got to be something to where, even though it's screenless, it's got to be something that I can interact with that's
Right.
on my person, right? So whatever
Right.
that is, who knows? But whatever it is, of course, with Sam Altman being there, AI is going to be at the forefront, and that's going to make Apple intelligence look even worse. So Apple has got a lot of work to do. I don't know if they can, between this announcement and WWDC, I don't know if anything new that Apple can announce or report. So whatever they've got cooking since last year or since Apple Intelligence came out, WWDC is when they've got to announce it, right? And it's got to work because people are they have a short fuse now as it relates to Apple Intelligence, not Apple, not the iPhone, Apple Intelligence. It's like, all right, Apple, y'all at the forefront of all this innovation, air quotes. We've got all these other companies around you innovating on AI. Love it or hate it, y'all going to step your game up.
Yep. And that's specifically why I want to talk about Google I/O, because now it's some heat coming up on Apple about what are you going to do? You've been the leader. You've been the innovator. Are you going to step up and meet the challenge? Or are you going to let these other people come in and take your crown?
Yeah, because it can happen. Apple is one of, if not the most valuable US company, or not company, period. Right. But y'all keep playing around. Epic then come and took a little bit of your money.
Yeah.
Google and OpenAI is coming to take a little bit more of your money. All these other AIs, Copilot, and all these other things, chatbots, all these things that Apple ain't doing. These companies are doing it. So it's like, Apple, y'all can't be in the back for too long, because eventually some people may, especially if Jony Ive and them come up with like a phone or some sort of device that compares as far as style and functionality to the iPhone, people are leaving the iPhone. People are leaving Apple. It sounds crazy, for somebody that's like myself, for example, that's deep in the Apple ecosystem, right?
Thousands and thousands of dollars deep into the Apple.
Dozens of devices deep.
Yes.
And all kinds of information and data, since, adopting Apple. That could be in jeopardy for some people who are just like, all right, Apple, your products cost too much. Y'all ain't doing nothing new on the hardware side. And all these other new companies is eating your lunch. What y'all gonna do? If y'all can't do nothing, then I'm gonna take my talents to South Beach.
Yep. Absolutely. So definitely got to keep an eye on that, because the kids, or the girls, as they say, are off to the races. And it's now open season. And it's who's going to come out on top, because the king was sitting up there comfortably, and that throne is crumbling a little bit. So Apple better watch it.
Yep.
All right, let's head on over into For the Culture, where we talk about what's going on with us. Well, I saw this video from earlier this week, and a couple of things kind of came to my mind out of seeing this. So we all know Denzel Washington, one of the premier actors of our time, well known across TV, movies, stage, all those things. Well, this week was the Cannes Film Festival. I actually went to Cannes a couple years ago. It's on the coast of France. Gorgeous place. Went to the steps where all the people are, and the museum, all that kind of good stuff. So this is where people go to show their new movies, to promote their new movies. You'll see online talking about, oh, this film had an 8-minute ovation, standing ovation, or 6-minute. It's basically a big fluffer event for all of the latest cinema that's coming out. Denzel Washington was there promoting his newest movie called Highest to Lowest with Spike Lee. We know him and Spike Lee kind of basically set the footprint for now what we see between Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. The film also stars A$AP Rocky, who is Rihanna's baby daddy and partner. And again, these events, if you are an A-lister, this is where you are. An A-lister, particularly in movies, this is where you are. International photographers, paparazzi, they flood the streets, they're taking pictures. The artists are, yucking it up with each other and with the fans, with paparazzi. It's just all this great and good, all these things. Well, in this particular case, Denzel, along with A$AP Rocky and Spike Lee, they were walking, down the red carpet, yucking it up. And this one photographer grabs Denzel Washington's arm. And if you'll remember, YouTube did a series with Jamie Foxx and Denzel, and Jamie Foxx was saying how he saw him on the street one time and he grabbed him, and then because he was a fan, he was young, he was excited, and the next thing you know, Denzel rips his arm from him and says, get your effing hands off me. It's a clip people use all the time. It's a meme. It's funny. It's cute. Well, in this instance, it was not fun. It was not cute, because as Denzel rips himself from this guy, you can see it. He goes in on him. It's basically, don't put your hands on me. Don't touch me. And the paparazzi goes and tries to do it again. So at this point, I think this paparazzi is trying to elicit this from Denzel. He is trying to get his quote unquote moment that he can sell, go viral, those types of things. But what it really made me think about is people's lack of personal boundaries, especially when it comes to our movie stars, our athletes, our singers. Just because they're in the public eye, people think that they have carte blanche to treat them any kind of way because I buy your products, I'm your fan, you owe this to me. And it was just one of those things that was thinking about how much Denzel and how long he's been in this industry. He's still going through this same kind of stuff. It's like insane, right?
Yes. But I also try to give the benefit of the doubt. My guess, I'm speculating that they're in France, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is there's some sort of language barrier as to when the dude grabbed him the first time and Denzel got in his face and told him to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the dude understood a word Denzel Washington was saying, which is why he turned around and grabbed him again. Now, the issue that probably most people are having is, forget the language barrier. What gave you the right or the idea to grab him in the first place when,
Right.
I don't know, I didn't look at all the videos. My guess is not too many other celebrities, actors didn't get grabbed. So I don't know if this dude really, really loves Denzel Washington, or he figured, oh, it's Denzel Washington. I can just grab him versus, whomever else might be there. We hold them in higher regard. Again, I don't know. I'm just speculating. My guess is there was a language barrier, but also you don't go grabbing
Context
people,
clues.
especially with black folks. You don't be grabbing on us like that. Don't do that.
I don't know you, man.
Our thing is, we do not know you. That go now.
That's
handshake,
universal.
Handshake, fist
A
bump.
little dap.
We can handle that. But don't go touching on me. I don't know you. So I think that's why most black people are upset about this. I don't know nothing about France culture. Again, we know paparazzi can be kind of intrusive, but that's kind of run of the mill. But this seemed a little bit different, and I'm curious to know why.
Yeah. And I don't think to this point, I haven't seen anything where the paparazzi himself has said anything. He could have. I haven't seen anything. But it just goes to show that while they are famous, while you may enjoy them, maybe while you're trying to make your money, because you got to get the shot to sell to whatever organization, keep your hands to yourself. Be like, if you're, I think these entertainers know that there's a level of interaction, but use your words.
Right.
Because you could hear in the video, Denzel, Rocky, over here, Spike, over here, that type of thing. But you take it a step further when you put your hands on somebody, especially somebody you don't know. And like you said, Black people, we don't play like that at all. And
Yeah.
all
I'm
that to
watching the
say,
video. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say he left soon after and went back to New York because, of course, he's doing his Broadway play Othello. But after that, he was like, you know what? I'm going to bounce real quick and go back to what I was doing because it's wild over here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the video. I don't think that dude understood what Denzel approached him to say because from the video that I see, it looked like Denzel remembered that dude and was like, hey, that's the guy, and walked over to say something to the dude. And then the dude is like laughing and smiling in his face. To me, that's a clear sign of something's getting lost in translation. But then the dude grabs him again,
Yeah.
which leads me to believe that I don't understood. He either was trying to play it off the embarrassment, you know, but or he just didn't understand what he was saying and went to grab him again.
Yeah.
That's a no in general, but especially with Black folks.
And I have to say that could be true. But my thing is, when, even if there's a language barrier, when somebody get up in your face and pointing their finger and telling you, you know what time it is, you know, this is not fun. This is not anything to be laughing at. This is,
Oh no, he did. No, I'm watching the video again. Denzel has his back turned and the dude reaches out and kind of tugs at him. And then Denzel turns around and then goes talk to the dude. And then as Denzel turns around to leave again, the dude grabs him again. So that's so weird. Again, I'm trying to rack my brain to come up with, reasons, but maybe there ain't none.
I think it's just money. I think he was trying to make because these paparazzi know to get the money shot. I think personally he was trying to elicit an emotion from Denzel to get the money shot. And I think he probably achieved that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. All right. That is going to wrap it up in For the Culture. Let's head on over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right. I am trying to journal more. Apple came out with the journal app that allows you to, journal. I don't have to explain that.
Right.
One of the things I wanted to share, though, for the hookup that makes it easier, or it makes me want to journal more, is that you can do voice text. So very simple. My hookup for the week is, instead of trying to type out the journal or the entry, you can actually, in the journal app, you can tap the audio button and you can do a voice memo. And then in the journal app, it can transcribe it. You can do it that way in the journal app. Or what I do is, if I've got a thought or I've got a thing that I want to get off my chest or say, I don't even feel like opening up the journal app, starting a new journal, tapping the audio button, and then talking. What you can do is just start a voice memo. I can do it on my watch and say, hey, homegirl, start a voice memo. Say the thing I need to say, the thought I need to get off my mind, whatever the case may be. Import that into the journal app when I feel like it. And then even before that, I can transcribe the voice memo, copy and paste that into the journal entry. So there are two ways that you, especially if you're trying to journal more, I would recommend for the hookup to use voice journal, whether you be in the journal app and tap the audio or voice record and do it that way, or just do a regular voice memo, as far as the voice memo app, and then import it into the journal app. So that's my hookup for the week. If you want to journal more, definitely talk or speak your journal entry, and that'll get you to journal more and, get you a better experience.
Nice. Keep that in mind. That I believe is going to wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere. You can also find our show at Snobble Scast everywhere as well. But you can also head on over to our website, snobblescast.com, to get all the details on how you can connect with us, how you can comment, how you can listen and watch the show, how you can support the show, how you can share the show, all of those good things. So definitely head on over there to check it out. And with that, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.